Blood stained the beige napkin. As the clatter of forks stopped, I looked up and saw my cousin's camera flashing red. 76,000 people and climbing were watching my stepfather's fist connect with my face over Thanksgiving turkey. They called me the ungrateful runaway who fled town. They didn't know what I'd brought back: hidden clauses in property deeds, evidence of asset stripping, and a lawyer who didn't know fear. In Raven County, Missouri, every secret gets swept under the rug. That Thanksgiving night, I ripped that rug clean off. My name is Madeline Pierce Maddie to anyone who knew me before I left Raven County 7 years ago. The smell of harvester gas still clung to my coat as Missouri's November wind cut across my face, sharp as broken glass. I dragged my suitcase across the red dirt yard, each step stirring dust that hadn't seen Chicago rain. Grandpa was dead. That's what brought me back. Not guilt, not nostalgia, just the cold fact that someone needed to sort through his papers, and Mom's voice on the phone had been tissue thin when she'd asked me to come. The family homestead looked wrong now, like someone had photoshopped a different life over the bones of my childhood. A metal sign creaked on new hinges. Bowers Outfitters Garage, private. Trent's mark, spreading like mold across everything my father had built before cancer took him. The porch steps groaned under weight they'd carried for 40 years. Through the screen door, I could see taxidermied deer heads where family photos used to hang. Beer signs flickered neon where Mom's cross-stitch samplers once lived. A gun rack dominated the wall that had held my father's service medals. Madeline. Mom stood in the doorway, smaller than I remembered. Her shoulders curled inward like quotation marks around an apology she'd never speak. You came. Of course I came. I set down my suitcase, noticed how her eyes tracked toward the garage before snapping back. Where's Trent? Getting ready for dinner. You know how he is about. She stopped, fumbled with her wedding ring. The band was new, thicker than the one Dad had given her. He's particular about things. Particular. That's what we were calling it now. Trent appeared behind her, filling the doorframe with his early 50s bulk, bourbon already sweet on his breath at 4 in the afternoon. Well. City girl graces us with her presence. His hand landed on my shoulder, fingers digging in just enough to establish dominance. How's that fancy desk job treating you? It's treating me fine. I didn't step back, didn't give him the satisfaction. Compliance officer at Harbor and Finch Capital meant I knew how to read contracts, spot fraudulent signatures, trace money trails, skills he didn't know I'd sharpened into weapons. Nice sign out front. When did you decide to commercialize Dad's workshop? His grip tightened, that quick squeeze that leaves no bruises anyone can photograph. Your dad's been gone 11 years. Girl, this is my house now. That's when I saw it, a home equity line of credit statement on the hall table. Mom's signature at the bottom. Except Mom's lowercase a's had never curved that way, and she'd never written her E with that flourish. Behind it, barely visible, was a pawn receipt. The timestamp was from last Tuesday. The item description made my stomach turn. Military memorabilia collection, authenticated, Vietnam era. Dad's medals, his unit patches, the flag from his funeral. I need to use the bathroom, I said, my voice steady as a held breath. In the locked bathroom, I photographed the red marks his fingers had left on my shoulder, uploaded them to a legal documentation app I'd installed on the plane. Evidence file Summer 1. Then I pulled out the certified copy of the Family Homestead Trust dated 2011, established by my father 3 months before his death. The lawyer had been clear back then, though I'd been too young to fully understand no major encumbrance without written consent from Madeline Pierce upon reaching age of majority. They thought I'd come home for a funeral. I'd come home for a reckoning. Grandma's dining table was drowning in paper-yellowed lace doilies buried under property deeds, old ledgers, photographs from the day they broke ground on the house by Hawthorne Lake. She sat across from me, her weathered hands sorting through decades like a card player arranging a winning hand. Your daddy knew. She slid an envelope across the table, my name written in his careful script. The paper inside was dated 2 weeks before he died. Read it. Maddie girl, if you're reading this, things have gone sideways. The trust isn't just paper, it's a wall. No major encumbrance without your written consent means exactly that. They can't sell, can't mortgage, can't strip the bones of what we built without your signature. You were 12 when I set this up. By the time you need it, you'll be old enough to fight. Don't let anyone tell you different. Grandma, has Trent been taking loans against the property, selling off your daddy's things? Her eyes sparked with something fierce. What do you think, child? I spread out the HELOC documents I'd photographed. This signature is forged. Mom's. Course it is. Your mama hasn't signed her name properly since the first time he raised his hand to her. Shakes too much. She pulled out a business card, worn soft at the edges. Jonah Merrick. He handled your grandpa's will, knows about the trust. His office is above the hardware store. Merrick's office smelled like old leather and coffee, every surface stacked with files except for a clear spot where he set down 2 cups. He was younger than I'd expected, maybe 40, with the kind of careful attention that meant he'd already pulled the property records before I'd called. Miss Pierce. He opened a folder thick as a phone book. I've been expecting you for 3 years, ever since Trent Bowers started making inquiries about clearing up ownership issues. Can we stop him? We can do more than that. He laid out documents like tarot cards telling a very specific future. Forgery is a Class D felony in Missouri. Using that forgery to obtain a HELOC that's fraud. Add the sale of items that belong to the trust without consent, and we're looking at felony theft. But here's the beautiful part. He tapped a subsection of the trust. Your father included a reversion clause. Any attempt at fraudulent transfer triggers immediate reversion of all property rights to you. So we can file 3 ways. He pulled out a legal pad, started sketching battle plans. Civil, we file for immediate restoration of ownership structure and damages. Criminal, we present evidence of forgery, fraud, and financial abuse of a vulnerable adult. Your mother qualifies given the documented domestic violence. Media, we document everything. Build public pressure. How do you know about the domestic violence? Emergency room records are public if subpoenaed correctly. Your mother's been in 6 times in 2 years. Always claims she fell. He met my eyes. She never fell, did she? No. Then we add assault charges to the list. But timing is everything. When's the next family gathering? Thanksgiving, day after tomorrow. Perfect. Nothing like a holiday audience. He leaned back. But Miss Pierce, once we start this, Trent will escalate. Men like him always do when cornered. Are you prepared for that? I thought about Dad's medals in some pawn shop display case, about Mom's curved shoulders, about 7 years of running that hadn't taken me far enough to forget. Let him escalate. In fact, I'm counting on it. Merrick smiled then, sharp as a filed brief. Wait until after Thanksgiving dinner to serve papers. Let him think he's won. Document everything that happens at that meal. Every threat, every gesture, every word. And if he gets violent, then we'll have witnesses. Multiple witnesses. Family gatherings have a way of becoming evidence goldmines when someone loses control. I stood to leave, then turned back. Why have you been waiting for me? You could have contacted me years ago. Your father paid my retainer in advance, 11 years' worth. He knew you'd come back when you were ready. He handed me a flash drive. Security footage from 3 pawn shops, 2 gun stores, and a gambling parlor. Trent's been busy. You'll want to see exactly how busy before Thursday. Outside, November wind rattled the windows like it was trying to get in. I had 48 hours to set the table for more than just turkey. Mr. Merrick, one more thing. Make sure papers are ready to file Thursday night. I have a feeling we'll need that emergency injunction. Already drafted. Just waiting for your signature, the only one that actually matters. The carving knife caught the light from the string of bulbs Mom had hung across the dining room, some attempt at festive that just made the shadows deeper. Football blared from the living room TV. The bourbon fog hung thick enough to taste. Trent having started his celebration at noon. I chose my seat deliberately, right next to him. my phone positioned in my lap with the recording app already running. Across the table, my cousin Kayla aimed her phone at the turkey, adjusting the ring light she'd brought from Chicago. "So, getting content for your followers?" I asked, loud enough for Trent to hear. "Trying to—" She pouted at her screen. "My authentic Midwest Thanksgiving series is tracking really well. Very cottagecore meets Americana, but the lighting in here is trash." "Go live," I suggested, casual as passing salt. "Your audience loves that raw, unfiltered family stuff." Trent snorted. "Nobody wants to watch us eat turkey, girl." "You'd be surprised," Kayla said, tapping her screen. And, "We're live? Hey, beautiful humans coming to you from the heartland, where my family's about to destroy some turkey." The red recording dot blinked like a witness taking notes. Mom carried in the turkey, hands shaking slightly as she set it down. The relatives' aunts, uncles, cousins twice removed filled the chairs with the careful movements of people who knew which topics to avoid. Everyone had seen Mom's bruises over the years. Everyone had chosen silence. "Before we eat," Trent stood, bourbon sloshing in his glass. "I want to say something about family, about building something real with your own hands." He gestured around the room. "I've put my blood and sweat into this place, renovated that old workshop into a real business, cleared out all that useless military junk cluttering up the garage." My phone caught every word. "That junk belonged to my father," I said, voice steady. "Your father's been gone 11 years. Princess. Someone had to make the hard choices. Someone had to be the man of this house." He swayed slightly. "Sold that crap for good money, too. Put it toward real improvements." "What improvements exactly?" "Wouldn't you like to know? Got big plans for this place. Gonna tear down that old shed. Maybe put in a deer blind down by the lake where your daddy used to waste time fishing." Kayla's phone tracked between us like a tennis match. The viewer count climbed 500, 800, 1,200. "You sold his medals." "Not a question. Medals don't pay bills, girl. Your mother understands that. Don't you? Evelyn." Mom looked at her plate. "Trent knows best. See, your mother appreciates what I do for this family. Unlike some people who run off to Chicago, think they're too good for us." "I didn't run. I left for college. There's a difference." "Difference." He laughed, ugly and wet. "You abandoned your mother, left her here to handle everything alone. And now you waltz back in here, judging how I take care of what you threw away. I didn't throw anything away. This house is mine." His fist hit the table. Plates jumped. Kayla's phone never wavered. "I'm the one here every damn day. I'm the one who married your pathetic mother when no one else would have her. I'm the one who forged her signature on loan documents." The room went silent except for the TV's distant roar. "What did you say?" "You heard me." I pulled out the HELOC papers. "This isn't her signature." He moved faster than a drunk man should. His hand caught my collar, yanking me up from my chair. "You little bitch. You don't know anything about 32,000 viewers," Kayla whispered, her voice high and scared. Trent's fist connected with my cheekbone. The world sparked white, then red. I heard Mom scream, heard chairs scraping, heard Kayla saying, oh my God," over and over. 50,000, someone said. 55, 60. I tasted blood, felt it drip onto the beige napkin. Through the phone screen Kayla held like a shield, I could see the comments flooding past. "Call 911, is this real? Someone help her, I'm recording this." 76,000, Kayla breathed. Trent stood over me, fists still clenched, finally understanding what that number meant. 76,000 witnesses, 76,000 people who'd just watched him commit assault on Livestream. The first siren wailed in the distance, getting closer. "Evidence," I said, blood thick in my mouth. "Is everything—" The patrol car's lights swept blue and red across the frost gathering on Hawthorne Lake, turning the world into a crime scene Polaroid. Deputy Martinez had been 2 years behind me in high school. Now she was photographing my swollen face with the clinical detachment of someone who'd seen worse, but rarely with this many witnesses. 76,000 people, she repeated, filling out the incident report. That's more than the population of 3 counties combined. The internet's funny that way, I said, holding ice against my cheekbone while EMT Jackson checked my pupils for concussion signs. Trent sat in the back of the second patrol car, still drunk enough to be belligerent but sober enough to understand he'd fucked up. The relatives had scattered like buckshot some giving statements, others pretending they'd seen nothing. Mom stood on the porch, arms wrapped around herself, watching Trent like she was memorizing his face before it disappeared. "We'll need that video as evidence," Martinez said to Kayla, who hadn't stopped shaking. It's saved. Automatically. The platform saves everything when it gets reported. And there were hundreds of reports during the stream. Kayla's mascara had run into modern art down her cheeks. "I didn't mean to. I was just trying to get content." "You saved me," I told her, squeezing her hand. "You did exactly right." My phone buzzed. "Merrick filing emergency injunction now. Judge Patterson is standing by." She saw the live stream. Her daughter was watching. By 11:45 that night, the emergency injunction was signed and served. The language was beautiful in its specificity: immediate freeze on all property transactions, prohibition on access to financial accounts, restraining order with 500-foot minimum distance, and the part that made me smile through my split-lip: authorization for law enforcement to secure and inventory all assets within the property. "This is comprehensive," Deputy Martinez said, reading through the order. "We'll need to seal the gun safe, the garage, any storage areas. Judge wants everything documented by morning." Trent was released on bond at 2 a.m. with an ankle monitor and a court date. By 2:30, he'd violated the restraining order by driving past the house. By 3, he was back in custody with revoked bail. Merrick arrived as dawn was breaking, carrying coffee and wearing the satisfied expression of a lawyer who'd just watched his case build itself. "The live stream is inadmissible," he said, "in the best possible way." "How is that good?" "Because we don't need it for court. The police body cameras, the EMT reports, the witness statements, that's our legal evidence. The live stream." He smiled. "That's our insurance policy. Trent's lawyer will know that 76,000 people watched his client commit assault. Any jury pool in 3 states is contaminated in our favor. He'll push for a plea deal." "I don't want a deal. I want everything." "You'll get it. But first, we document." He handed me a camera. "Every room, every item, every scrap of paper. The restraining order gives you full access for the next 72 hours while Trent can't come within 500 feet. Sheriff Coleman arrived with the official seal-tape red evidence strips that would mark Trent's territories as off-limits. The gun safe, the garage he'd renamed, the filing cabinet where he kept his gambling receipts thinking they were hidden. "Start with the safe," I said. Coleman cut the lock. Inside, 3 unregistered handguns, rolls of cash rubber-banded tight, and a manila folder that made my stomach drop. Photos of Mom with bruises mapped across weeks, maybe months. Not evidence of abuse trophies. "Jesus Christ," Martinez whispered. "There's more." I pointed to the garage. "He said he sold my father's things, but men like Trent don't sell everything. They keep trophies." The garage workshop had been reorganized into Trent's vision tools hung on pegboard with aggressive precision, beer fridge humming in the corner, porn calendar tacked where Dad's safety certificates used to hang. But in the back, behind a false panel I remembered from childhood hide-and-seek, I found them. 3 medals, including Dad's bronze star, his service photos, the flag from his funeral, crumpled and stained with what looked like beer. Kayla appeared in the doorway, phone nowhere in sight for once. "Maddie, Mom's asking for you. Your mom. She's finally ready to talk." Outside, dawn was turning the lake silver. Somewhere, 76,000 people were waking up to the viral video of a family destroying itself over turkey and real estate. But here, In the evidence-taped ruins of Trent's kingdom, we were just beginning to count the damage. "Tell her I'll be right there," I said, photographing the beer stains on the flag. "And Kayla, thank you for keeping the camera rolling." "I almost stopped," she admitted. "When he hit you? Why didn't you?" "Because I remembered what you said at Grandpa's funeral, about how silence is just violence with its hands in its pockets." She met my eyes. I chose not to be silent. The ice on the lake cracked, a sound like gunshot in the morning quiet. Change coming, whether we were ready or not. Rubber gloves, flashlight, wood dust. The safe opened with a grinding thunk, papers spilling out like snakes made of evidence. I knelt on the garage floor, Merrick beside me with an evidence log, Deputy Martinez recording everything on her body camera. Jesus. Merrick whistled low. He kept everything. NFL betting slips, thousands of dollars worth, all dated within the last 6 months. The losses circled in red ink like wounds. A pawn receipt for Dad's watch, the Omega Seamaster he'd worn in Vietnam, worth $12,000, pawned for $800. Another receipt, rare coin collection, authenticated, Spanish colonial and Morgan silver dollars. Dad's inheritance from his own father, built over 40 years, sold for quick cash to cover point spreads. "Look at this." I held up a contract from a sports booking site, terms of a repayment plan that looked more like a mob shakedown. "He owes $47,000 to an offshore betting company." "That explains the HELOC," Merrick said. "He needed legitimate money to pay illegitimate debts." Deeper in the pile, receipts for the metals he'd sold to 3 different pawn shops, spreading the crime thin enough he thought nobody would notice. Photos of Mom's jewelry pieces I remembered from childhood with prices written on sticky notes. Some already had sold scrawled across them. "This is systematic asset stripping," Martinez said. "This isn't just theft, it's organized." I moved to Dad's old workbench, ran my hands along the wood he'd shaped himself. Fresh gouges scarred the surface crowbar marks where someone had pried off the tool holders. The neighbor, Ted Morrison, had mentioned taking photos of the workshop for a woodworking blog 2 years ago. Time to compare. "We need those photos from Ted," I told Martinez, "before and after evidence of destruction." The filing cabinet revealed more printed emails between Trent and someone named Rico about moving merchandise. A handwritten list of items with values that included things still in the house, Grandma's china, Mom's wedding silver, even the antique rifle that had been in the family since the Civil War. "He was planning to clean you out completely," Merrick said. "This list is dated next week." My phone buzzed. Mom, texting for the first time in years. "Found something in his truck." The truck sat in the driveway, technically off limits without a warrant, but Mom's name was on the registration. Another forgery, but one that worked in our favor now. Under the seat, a burner phone with one number saved. I called it. Trent. The voice was rough, impatient. "You better have my money. Tomorrow's the deadline." I hung up, screenshotted everything, forwarded it to Merrick. "Criminal usury," he said immediately. "That's federal." The house revealed more secrets. In the basement, behind insulation Trent had installed, I found a hidden compartment. Inside the original deed to the property. Dad's will. And this stopped my breath, a life insurance policy on Mom worth $200,000, taken out 6 months ago. Forged signature, of course. Trent as sole beneficiary. "We need to get your mom somewhere safe," Martinez said, reading over my shoulder. "Already arranged," Merrick said. "My sister runs a women's shelter in Springfield. Secure facility." Kayla appeared with her laptop. "You need to see this." After the live stream went viral, people started messaging me. Other people Trent's scammed. "Look." The messages scrolled past a contractor never paid for roof work, a neighbor who'd lent Trent $5,000 that was never returned, a cousin whose car title Trent had somehow transferred to his name while helping with paperwork. "Pattern of behavior," Merrick muttered, typing notes. "This establishes a crash from upstairs." We ran up to find Mom standing over a shattered picture frame. Trent's face ground under her heel. 23 years, she said, voice steady for the first time since I'd arrived. 23 years I've been pretending that man didn't steal my life piece by piece. No more. She held out a safety deposit key. Bank of Missouri, Box 447. Your father left it for you. Trent never knew about it. What's in it? Proof that your father knew exactly what kind of man Trent was. He documented everything before he died Trent's first bankruptcy. His arrest record from Kansas that he thought was sealed. The real reason his first wife left. She met my eyes. Your father was a patient man, Maddie. He knew you'd come back when you were ready to use it. The phone in my hand. Trent's burner rang again. This time I let it go to voicemail. The message was short. Tomorrow, Trent. No more extensions. Tomorrow he'll be in federal custody. Merrick said, let them come looking. The small church's pine wreath framed the doorway where veterans were gathering, each carrying something recovered from pawn shops across 3 counties. Dale Hutchinson, who'd served with Dad in the 73rd Airborne, placed a restored bronze star on the table he'd driven to Kansas City to buy it back from a military memorabilia dealer. Your dad saved my life in Khe-Sanh, he said simply. Least I could do was save his medal from some display case. One by one, they came forward. The Steinberg brothers had pooled money to retrieve Dad's unit patches. Maria Gonzalez, whose husband had died in Iraq, had tracked down his service photos at an estate sale in Colombia. Each person signed an affidavit Merrick had prepared, documenting the stolen valor by proxy, profiting from the service of others while destroying their legacy. 32 witnesses so far, Merrick said, checking his phone. And more coming forward. The elementary school where Mom worked as secretary had its own drama unfolding. At 10:15 that morning, Trent showed up drunk, violating both the restraining order and school safety protocols. The security footage was crystal clear, him pounding on the locked door, screaming about his property and that bitch daughter, while 23 first graders watched from their classroom window. Principal Janet Morrison didn't hesitate. Lock down, call police, protect the children. By 10:25, Trent was in handcuffs. By 10:30, his bail was revoked permanently. He threatened to burn down the school, Janet told me later. Said if he couldn't have his house, nobody could have anything. That was the moment Mom finally broke free. She signed every document Merrick put in front of her legal separation. Financial fraud complaint, domestic violence disclosure, and most importantly, the property restructuring agreement. Life estate for you, I explained, meaning you can live there as long as you want. But I hold the deed and all decision rights. No loans, no sales, no changes without my signature. Protection, she said, understanding. From him, from myself, from anyone who'd try to take advantage again. Kayla had been busy too. She'd submitted the original live stream to the prosecutor's office with full metadata timestamp, location tags, view count history. More importantly, she'd preserved the comment thread, where several viewers had screenshotted and recorded independently, creating an unbreakable chain of evidence. The platform's legal team contacted me, she said. They're preserving everything under litigation hold. Trent's lawyer can't claim it was edited or faked. The federal prosecutor, Anna Chin, no relation despite the name, arrived that afternoon. Criminal usury, fraud across state lines, conspiracy to commit insurance fraud. Your stepfather's looking at 15 to 20. He won't make it to trial, Merrick said. His loan sharks won't wait that long. That's why we're moving him to federal holding in Jefferson City, for his own protection. She turned to me. You've built an airtight case, but are you prepared for him to retaliate? My phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? You fucking cunt. Trent's voice, slurred and vicious. You think you've won, I'm gonna burn that fucking house down with your mother in it. You hear me? Everything burns. You're on speaker, I said calmly. With a federal prosecutor, 2 lawyers, and 3 police officers. Silence. Also recording. Kayla added helpfully. The line went dead. Terroristic threatening, Chin said, making notes. Add 5 more years. That evening, we gathered at the house, Mom, Kayla, the veterans, Merrick's team, the carpenter, Jim Holstrom, Dale's son, had already started restoration. I've got the original photos, he said, showing me Dad's workshop from 2009. We'll rebuild it exactly. Every shelf, every tool holder. The pegboard, I asked. Especially the pegboard, with the outline labels for each tool, just like your dad had it. I walked through the house, seeing it differently now. Not as Trent's occupied territory, but as what it had always been our home, temporarily hijacked but never truly taken. The gun safe had been emptied and removed. The beer signs were gone. The taxidermied animals donated to a hunting lodge that actually appreciated them. In their place, slowly, we rehung family photos. Dad in uniform, Mom and Dad's wedding, me at high school graduation, the one Trent had hidden in the basement. There's one more thing, Mom said. She led me to the attic, to a trunk Trent had never found. Inside Dad's dress uniform, perfectly preserved, his journal from Vietnam, and at the bottom, wrapped in tissue paper, a letter addressed to me. Maddie, if you're reading this, you're old enough to understand that some battles aren't fought with weapons. The pen, the law, the truth. These are stronger than any fist. I knew what Trent was the day your mother introduced him. I also knew she needed to discover it herself. You would be her strength when she was ready. The house, the trust. All of it that was my way of making sure you'd have the tools when the time came. Make him pay, sweetheart. Make him pay in full. Tomorrow would bring the federal indictment. Tonight. We reclaimed our space, one photo at a time. The smell of fresh paint mixed with sawdust as the circular saw hummed to life. Jim Holstrom's hands steady as he cut lumber to match the exact dimensions from Dad's original sketches. The workshop was coming alive again, each shelf rising from the walls like memory given form, the wood grain showing through the stain like fingerprints. Your dad labeled everything with a wood burner, Jim said, holding up a perfectly restored tool holder. See each outline. Each space had purpose. I hung Dad's restored hammer in its place, the small brass plate beneath reading simply James Pierce, Builder. The pegboard was clean now, Trent's crowbar damage sanded away and reinforced. Where violence had scarred, craftsmanship healed. Merrick arrived with a briefcase and the expression of a chess player moving his queen. Final negotiation in an hour. Trent's lawyer is desperate. What's their offer? Full confession, complete restitution of stolen items, surrender of all property claims. In exchange, they want minimum sentence recommendations. No deal. Maddie, he threatened to burn the house down with my mother in it. That's not just crime. That's attempted murder for hire through intimidation. No deals. Merrick smiled. I was hoping you'd say that, because I have something better. He spread out Facebook screenshots, each timestamp preserved, Trent's posts over 2 years, bragging about his renovations and improvements to the property. In half of them, clear shots of the crowbar in his hands, the damage to Dad's workshop visible in the background. He documented his own vandalism, Merrick said, posted it publicly with timestamps that match the forged documents. The jury will see premeditation spanning years. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number with a video attachment. I opened its security footage from the pawn shop, Trent haggling over Dad's medals, saying clearly, "These are mine now. The old bastard's dead. His bitch wife does what I tell her." Who sent this? Another text. The pawn shop owner says Trent still owes him $3,000. Wants to testify. The courtroom scene built itself. Witnesses lined up like dominoes. But Merrick had one more card. The life insurance policy on your mother. The company investigated after the live stream went viral. They found 6 other policies Trent tried to open on elderly relatives. All forged. That's federal racketeering. 20 to life, I calculated. If the jury's feeling generous. The final negotiation took place in the courthouse conference room. Trent, shackled and orange jumpsuited, looked smaller than I'd ever seen him. His lawyer, a public defender who'd drawn the short straw, pushed papers across the table with the enthusiasm of a pallbearer. Mr. Bowers will plead guilty to all charges. 14 counts of fraud, 3 counts of assault, 2 counts of terroristic threatening, 1 count of attempted insurance fraud. And, Merrick prompted, and he forfeits all claims to property, agrees to permanent no-contact orders, and provides full written confession including the location of any hidden assets. Hidden assets. I leaned forward. Trent's jaw clenched, but his lawyer nudged him. Storage unit off Highway 54. Has the coin collection and some other items? What other items? Your grandmother's jewelry, some bonds, things that weren't supposed to exist. The betrayal went deeper than even I'd imagined. While Mom struggled to buy groceries, he'd been sitting on stolen wealth. There's more, the lawyer continued. Mr. Bowers provides information on his associates in the gambling operation in exchange for protective custody. Snitching. I almost laughed. How very brave. Sign it, Merrick told Trent, before my client remembers the attempted arson threat and adds another charge. Trent signed. 8 pages of confession, each initial another nail. When he finished, he looked at me with those bourbon-dead eyes. Your father. Don't. I cut him off. You don't get to say his name. Not anymore. Outside the courthouse, Mom waited by the car, holding the new keys to the storage unit. 23 years of my life, she said, but not 1 day more. That evening, we opened the storage unit together. Everything he'd stolen, hoarded, hidden, laid out like evidence of a life built on theft. Dad's coins gleamed in their protective cases. Grandma's pearl necklace coiled in its velvet box. Bonds in Mom's maiden name that could have paid off the house twice over. We won, Kayla said, recording it all for evidence. No, I corrected, holding Dad's recovered Purple Heart up to the light. We just got back what was already ours. The workshop was finished by sunset. Jim had even found the same brand of wood stain Dad used. I stood in the doorway, watching the light catch the fresh lumber, and could almost hear Dad's voice, make him pay in full. Bill rendered, account settled, justice served. Late Thanksgiving night. Frost sparkled across the yard like scattered diamonds. I placed Dad's bronze star in the newly restored display case, each medal now home where it belonged. The workshop smelled like hope-fresh wood and possibility replacing years of bourbon and decay. The courthouse deputy read Trent's conditions in a monotone that made poetry of justice guilty on all counts. 14 counts fraud, sentenced to run consecutively. 3 counts assault, 2 counts terroristic threatening, 1 count attempted insurance fraud. Total sentence 37 years, eligible for parole in 22. His lawyer noted the confession, the restitution agreement, the cooperation with federal investigators, all properly filed, sealed, delivered. Kayla set her phone down, no recording this time, just presence. The screen still showed that number 76,000, from disaster to deliverance, all because she'd kept the camera rolling when instinct said stop. The view count's over 3 million now, she said quietly. People keep sharing it with Justice for Maddie. It's not about me, I said, turning the key in the new lock solid. Sure, final. It's about everyone who's had their inheritance stolen by someone who thought violence made them owner. Mom stood in the kitchen doorway, shoulders straight for the first time in years. She'd signed the new structure papers an hour ago life estate for her. Full control to me. Ironclad protection against any future predator. The pen had trembled in her hand, but her signature was clear. Your father would be proud, she said. He knew, I replied, holding up his letter one more time. He set the trap. I just sprang it. The rebuilt shelves held his tools, again hammer level, square each in its outlined place. Jim Holstrom had even found the same wood-burning pen to trace Dad's labels. Above them, that small brass plate caught the overhead light, James Pierce, builder, not just of furniture or houses. Builder of unbreakable trusts, patient plans, delayed but inevitable justice. Merrick closed his briefcase with the satisfaction of a surgeon finishing a perfect operation. Storage unit contents valued at $87,000. Insurance fraud prevented $200,000. Property preserved $400,000. Trent Bowers in federal prison priceless. What about his debts? The gambling people. Federal problem now? They can't collect from a man serving 37 years. They can't touch the property it's in trust. They're out $47,000 with no recourse. He smiled. Funny how the law protects the innocent when properly applied. I walked through the house one more time. The walls held family photos again. The gun rack was gone, replaced by Mom's cross-stitch samplers. The beer signs had vanished, leaving clean walls ready for new memories. In the basement, Trent's hidden compartment stood empty, all his hoarded secrets dragged into daylight and properly cataloged as evidence. Outside, Hawthorne Lake reflected the moon in fractures of silver. The same view Dad had loved. The same water that had witnessed 3 generations of Pierces, now witnessed restoration. "You leaving tomorrow?" Mom asked. "My flight's at noon. Chicago's waiting." "Will you—" She stopped, started again. "Will you come back?" "Every holiday." I promised. "This is home. It always was. We just had to clear out the squatter." She laughed, actually laughed for the first time since I'd arrived. The last thing I did was hang the recovered flag in its case in the living room. The beer stains had been professionally cleaned, the wrinkles pressed out. It flew now the way it should have always flown with honor, in its rightful place, in a house built by a soldier and protected by the daughter he'd armed with more than bullets. Trent thought he'd stolen our legacy. He'd only borrowed it, at interest rates he couldn't afford to pay. I locked the door behind me, pocketed the key, the only copy now, and looked back at the house. No more Bowers Outfitters signs. No more claims by false men to true inheritance. Just the Pierce family home, exactly as my father had built it, exactly as he'd planned for it to remain. Justice doesn't always come with sirens and handcuffs. Sometimes it comes with paperwork and patience. Sometimes it takes 7 years and 76,000 witnesses. But it comes. It always comes. The frost crunched under my feet as I walked to the car. Thanksgiving was over, the reckoning complete. The house stood solid against the Missouri night, every board and beam a testament to the truth. You can't steal what was never yours, not when the real owner knows exactly where you hid the key. Thank you for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts below. Your stories and experiences matter too.